We're going to start with an Indigenous acknowledgement.
Can you pull up the screen, Amy? Hi, thank you. Good morning, everyone. I will, excuse me, I'll give the acknowledgement this morning. So we want to acknowledge the lack of urgency in reporting on missing Indigenous persons in this country. In Washington state, the issue is especially important because we are a state with ports from which humans can be easily trafficked. As of January 30th, 2023, there are 133 missing Indigenous persons reported in Washington state. 57 of those missing are age 19 or younger, and the youngest reported at 13 years old. 75 of those missing are women and girls. I have a link for those who are interested in more information. Excuse me. I wanted to highlight something a little different in the land acknowledgement today to just bring an important issue kind of to the surface for all of us to recognize. We have a colleague who is Alaska Native and has brought this issue or has discussed this issue with us a few times. So I thought it was something good to bring in and to highlight. We may continue to highlight kind of different things moving forward. If you have questions or thoughts on this particular acknowledgement, let me know. Happy to kind of give us a moment to let it sit and discuss anything if anyone is interested.
Thank you, Morgan. We will move into our icebreaker now. So the days are notably getting a little bit longer. And so the icebreaker question is, how are you enjoying the extra daylight that we're having? So feel free to chime in via chat, or you can also unmute yourself and speak to it.
We've got a quiet group today. There we go.
Morgan, I'm not able to see the chat right now, if you can help with that.
Yeah, happy to. So letting chickens stay out of the coop longer at night. I'm sure they're enjoying that. Seeing and hearing, I assume, more birds, Christine. I'm also hearing that. That's great. Enjoying beautiful sunrises and sunsets along the river as I drive to and from work. That's nice. Playground time with the girls. The dog has definitely benefited more from daylight hours, longer walks. Starting to get out of bed in the morning and spending time outdoors with family, a lot of that. More dogs enjoying extra time and walks outside. I love it. Everyone has spring fever.
Thank you, everyone, for chiming in on that. I myself am enjoying getting out for the walks later. So we'll move on to a couple reminders. Mainly, we'll let people review these at their leisure, but I do want to mention a couple of February reminders. February 17th is the Friday Forum presentation that this statewide evaluation team, where they will speak to the needs assessment results. So that's a good one to keep in mind. And then there are some public participation grants. We sent out information in our SNAP-Ed weekly communications. And I'm mentioning it because there are some information sessions and application assistance. And the first date that they listed for that is February 28th. There are also a couple sessions in March, but you can see the SNAP-Ed communications that just came out yesterday for more details on this. And then I would just ask if my team members have any other reminders, feel free to step in at this time. Okay, Well, next up is very exciting. We have Chris Mornick, our new SNAP-Ed manager at DSHS, joining us this morning. So welcome, Chris. We're thrilled to have you, and I'm going to turn it over to you.
Hi, everyone. It's wonderful to be here, and it's great to see some familiar faces as well. My name is Chris Mornick. I am a registered dietitian, and I am coming over from the Department of Health, where I worked with the Healthy Eating Active Living program as a nutrition coordinator and then as program manager, implementing a lot of similar strategies to SNAP-Ed. So healthy eating, active living, focused on policy systems and environmental changes. I'm really excited to be here. I'm really grateful for the opportunity. And I'm happy to answer any questions. I'm mostly just here to listen. I'm in week 2, so I'm very, very new. But it's been great. I've been able to meet with some of the other LIAs already and just hear about people's experiences and also some of the feelings around all the transition and changes that are happening. And it's all really helpful for me for context setting. So feel free to reach out to me anytime directly. I'll put my email in the chat box, but I'm also happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Chris. So next we will talk just for a minute about time and effort certifications and timesheets. We want to thank all of you in the local agencies for your quick response to our request for these time records in preparation for a management evaluation of DSHS by FNS. And everyone worked really hard to send in records for us and got them in quickly. And just to give you a heads up, the Office of Nutrition Services, which is where our DOHIA SNAP-Ed team sits in DOH, is looking at changing their process around what time records to collect from local agencies across the board. So please stay tuned for updated requirements around that, and we will announce that, of course, to all of you when we have more information. I'll pause there and ask if there are any questions. You can also save your questions for later if that's easier. Okay, we will move into the 3-year plan updates. Morgan, I'll turn that over to you.
Yeah, thank you. So as you have hopefully seen via email and in our office hours, if you were able to make those, a communication was sent from DSHS January 27th. So please go to your email if you haven't seen that yet to read the full communication. Basic highlights around the 3-year plan. We're moving to a statewide model, which is the feeling we've gotten from a lot of people is that that's a good thing. We're excited to move that way. So I'm glad to hear that. WSU has decided that they are no longer going to contract outside of their own agency. So I think that there's a lot of questions going on around about that. We don't see this as goodbye to WSU. We still plan to work with you as partners, and we hope the feeling is mutual. No RFAs or plan changes for contractors for FY24. There's not time. It doesn't really make sense at this point to be doing that. And we need your help in planning. So we want you to come along with us to help kind of plan the next 3 years and what that's going to look like. Another plug for Friday the 17th, Friday Forum for the evaluation team's presentation of the needs assessment. It's going to be very important in what we choose to focus on for the next 3-year plan. And one of the big questions, of course, is budgets, and we don't know that yet. We are waiting to hear about allocation numbers, and those typically will come out in the spring. I'm going to pause there in case there's anyone who hasn't heard any of this news and wants to chime in for questions or anything. Okay, and we'll plan, our team will still plan to stay on kind of after the main agenda it has gone through, in case you want to ask questions to a smaller group, that's fine too. So I'll move on to ASNA updates. So for those who are new, ASNA is the Association of SNAP Nutrition Education Administrators. Every February, they have a national conference in DC. It is jam-packed with information, and it's all SNAP Ed. So every minute is very relevant, and it's got lots of great information. I was able to attend, and I brought back some kind of overarching things that I heard. So the new nutrition education branch, which is where Angela went to her new position. They are working through the FY24 SNAP Ed guidance. They are planning to release that in the spring. And one of the things that they talked about that I was really excited about is they took a lot of time this last year to partner with other federal programs and talk about aligning goals and evaluation and priorities. So other federal programs could be WIC, FNS, or it could be CDC. A lot of programs that kind of have similar values. They did a good, thorough job in connecting with them. So I'm excited to see what that means. Our partners in WIC in the office have already been getting questions from FNS about how they're partnering with us. So I think it's going to be really great for us to have that push from the federal level. For this round, they said they focused on clarification, flow, and readability of the guidance. They said they did not plan a lot of big changes. It will include detailed NPAIRS information. NPAIRS isn't something that will directly affect you very much, but it will affect how we, potentially how we write reports, how we evaluate. So it could change a lot of the things that, the templates that we have you use. And updated tribal guidance. So in 2022, FNS released a memo on how to work with tribal agencies in your state. They have incorporated that information into the guidance now. And then further, and before I hit the last bullet, just a caveat that they said clarifications to these things, but they didn't say if it was new additions or things that we can't do, or all they said was clarifications to SNAP referrals, virtual programming requirements, MOU requirements, and staff training costs related to mental and emotional health. So a lot of us had questions on, does that mean we can work with mental and emotional health as like this category now? We get a lot of questions on it locally, and they did not clarify. So I guess we'll see what that means. Overall, a lot of the breakout sessions were related to state nutrition action councils or SNACs, tribal engagement, and aligning with the White House and other federal programs. So again, I'll pause there if anyone has questions. Hey, Linda, good morning.
Good morning. What could you elaborate if you know about the MOU requirements?
I wish I could.
Memorandum of understanding with, not with FNS, but with our partners. Is that?
That's my assumption, I think. But yeah, what's her name? Calvillo. Maria Calvillo, I think she's the lead of the new nutrition education branch, and she just said we have clarifications to MOU requirements and blah blah blah, and she didn't like elaborate further.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah. Any other questions? Anything you were hoping that we would learn at ASNA that maybe I didn't highlight?
I'll ask one more thing again, if that's all right.
Yeah.
I attended last year and there was a lot of presentations around, various methods of evaluation, formative process. And so, I mean, was there anything that struck you about shared evaluation processes or results or presentations that stuck out for you?
Yeah. So the group that attended ASNA, there were enough of us that we were able to split up and each attend a different breakout session. One of the people who attended was Nora, so she did a lot of the very evaluation focused breakouts. So hopefully she'll have some stuff to bring back. Some of the ones that I did attend had evaluation kind of lens on it. So one of those was dose response for participants. So basically, when you're looking at your state as a whole, what are your participants being engaged in? Do they have opportunities for direct ed, for PSE, indirect, social marketing, all at once, only in pockets, and kind of looking at that as your state and determining what you need to plan moving forward. So it wasn't necessarily a you should do this, but they just gave an example of, hey, we made this map for dose response, and here's what we did moving forward. So the state that was presenting focused a lot of their social marketing on the pockets of the state that didn't get a lot of direct SNAP Ed contact. You know, it was a very rural area or something like that. So they, instead of, the ability to hire staff in remotely rural areas isn't always available. So they push social marketing to kind of help fill in those gaps. So that was the most, I would say, evaluation focused one I went to.
Interesting. Thanks, Morgan.
Yeah.
Thank you, Morgan. Are there any other questions before we move on to our last topic?
Yeah, I see a question in the chat. What is a State Nutrition Action Council, or SNAC? Thank you, Micah. That is, that's something that's been in the SNAP Ed guidance for years and years, and they are most recently kind of putting a new emphasis on it. So a State Nutrition Action Council is basically a partnership among state entities to align groups and programming and goals, so that, we're not stepping on toes or kind of basically wasting federal dollars doing the same thing twice. Some states have really strong nutrition action councils where they come together, they kind of choose a topic like farmers markets, and all of the different agencies then kind of do the same thing and really just saturate that program. And then they look at the results, and then they kind of move on to a new project or goal. Washington had one prior to the pandemic. It was it was very DOH heavy, and once the pandemic hit, a lot of us were pulled into COVID response, and so it kind of fell apart. There are talks to kind of get it back together, and I'm sure as we continue in the state planning process, we'll figure out what that could possibly look like. So I hope that helped for an answer. And then, Julie, do you have any specifics on updated tribal guidance? I don't, but what we can do is find that memo that came out in FY22. One of the things that we talked about as a region, the Western region, got together, and we were asked to talk about our experiences working with tribal agencies. And so there was a lot of talk about, relationship building, and how if you have a main contact and they retire or move to another position or what have you, you're starting back at square one, and it's a very difficult thing to do successfully and to maintain. So I have yet to read that memo and exactly what they're kind of talking about, but it is something we can share out. Yeah, I think that's, let me know if you have any other questions apart from that. And then Diane, anything shared around the Farm Bill? Nothing specifically. There's one or two key people who are kind of retiree members who consistently come to ASNA, and they are, because they aren't tied to federal dollars, they are very heavy in lobbying. And so Sue Forrester is her name, and she's kind of that main person. So she is the one who is going to DC and doing that lobbying for SNAP-Ed and federal programs like us. So her push currently and for years has been, SNAP-Ed allocation has been steady since 2009, something like that. It's been a long time since there's been any change in dollar allocations for states. She said currently it is set to 5 cents per SNAP participant, and her push has been for years to bump it up to 10 cents per participant. Other than that, I have not heard any Farm Bill talk. Chris, I think you found, let me see here. I'm just going to check on this link quick. Yes, Chris, thank you. Chris found the memo that we can share out regarding tribal consultation. I very much appreciate that. Thank you for searching. Any other questions? All right, and feel free to stay on after if you think of something, or email. I'm always happy to chat. Thank you.
Thank you, Morgan, and thank you everyone for your questions. Great to have those. Next up, we will talk about mid-year amendments for a couple minutes, and I'm going to turn that over to Christine.
Hi, everyone. Before we dig into that, what I want to just give everyone like a huge round of applause and a thank you for early on, like last year, doing 2 budgets. One for the funding that we knew you absolutely had, and another one for additional funds that you would have potentially requested basically at this time. So by doing that budget early, what we're seeing is, well, first of all, we're able to get you funding earlier so you can use it with our SNAP-Ed communities. So we're just delighted that this process that we started is working, and it's working because you did a little bit of work up front, but it seems like now when we're looking at mid-year amendments, it really is just things that came up that people needed a little bit of extra funding for, instead of looking at staffing, looking at some bigger items within your whole program that you needed funding for. So I just wanted to really call that out and tell you that, yay, you, it's just really working. So we will probably stick to that kind of system in the future since it is working really well. A couple clarifications. So mid-year amendments would really be just requests for new additional money, not for shifting money in your budget, unless it's an item that we need to get FNS approval for, like cell phone. I mean, there's really few of those things that we need to ask FNS for, but it's a good time to do it at this mid-year amendment time. So additionally, we would like to work with people on their updated budget and see how the extra column, I'm sorry, this only really applies to like 6 agencies, but that extra column, how that was in working with it. I'm unsure we actually have everyone's new budget. So we'll be reaching out for just a couple agencies to be sure we have the right information. Morgan, any other comments about mid-year amendments?
I don't think so. Thank you. Thank you everyone for submitting them on time and you were all ready to go. So I really appreciate that.
Any questions about mid-year amendments or amendments in general? Looks like Julie.
Well, my burning question is, how soon will we know? I know it won't take effect until May 1, but do you have any kind of ballpark date?
Morgan.
That's a good question. I can give you an overview of like what the process looks like. So the bureaucracy of DOH is we have to have everything to our contracts office by March 1st. And since we'll have everything ready by that time, that's when we'll submit to DSHS for their review and for them to submit on to FNS for those that need it. So the March deadline for our internal workings is because contracts wants that 2 months to make sure that they have everything in order. So we'll be ready to launch by May 1st, but that's pending FNS approval. So if you didn't have anything that needed FNS approval and it's something that we can just approve internally, you will probably hear much faster. But yeah, I guess it kind of depends on what was asked for and all of that. Does that help?
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Christine and Morgan. Are there other questions before we move on to our more informal Q&A conversation?
I see a question from Courtney. Will results from the needs assessment be shared if we can't attend Friday Forum? That's a good question. I think so. Friday Forum will be recorded. But as far as, are you asking like, will there be a 1-pager or anything like that? I'm not sure. My guess is, and again, this is totally like a guess, nothing for sure. When we do hold a statewide forum, that at least results will probably be repeated and highlights shared. But again, that's just a guess.
Yeah, I'll jump in. I spoke with eval team recently about this, and they're thinking about 1-pagers. They're trying to think of, good ways to get this information out there. So for those of you that are able to attend this Friday's Friday Forum, or the forum on Friday, if you have any suggestions, I'm sure they would appreciate any recommendations or tips that you might have about what you'd like to see.
Thank you, Jamie. Other comments, questions? Okay, well, if people don't have anything immediate, by all means, let us know if something comes to mind. We're happy to chat with you all anytime, and we'll stay on for now for some more informal Q&A with people. And thank you all so much for coming today.